Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm continuing with the theme from the last video. Actually, I took the Canon M50 Mark II out with me on the last video and had the kit lens on. Well, today I want to keep the kit lens on and do some photography using a panorama technique. So I've brought the tripod with me so that I can show you how I set it up. Now, I'm in Milton Keynes, and yes, I get a few reasonable photos here, and those that have followed me know that I often moan about the fact I haven't got mountains here and some really nice scenes like in Wales or Lake District, etc. But nevertheless, if you are living in a place like this, in a town, and you haven't got those sort of scenes, it doesn't mean you can't get out and practice those, ready for when you do go to those scenes. So I'm going to go over the panorama technique that I use when I'm taking photos, and I'm going to use the kit lens so we can actually see how well the kit lens performs. I've got a particular scene in mind, and I've been there on this channel before, and that's a place called Campbell Park I'm walking over to, and towards the top I often take a picture of, there's a hotel up there and a theatre. What I'm going to try and do is, rather than take a panorama view of a mountain scene, I'm going to take one of a cityscape. So all of this is, yes, I want to get a reasonable photo, but I think it's good to get out and practice these things wherever you live. On a day like today, we're in October, bit of a chill in the wind, but it's a lovely sunny day, so why not? Let's get out and try these things. So what I'll do is I'll catch up with you when I get to the top, or if I see another scene before that, then we'll stop and have a look. I may well do, you never know. Okay, catch up with you in a moment. Okay, I'm at the top now and all the best plans. I've got up here, and on the field that I was going to stand in, there's a bit of work going on. Looks like they could be putting something up, maybe a tent, marquee, maybe it's getting ready for a fair, but they're certainly doing some work on there on that field, so that's shot may be out of the question. So I've got another shot in mind, and I'm going to first of all take it. I've got the Canon M6 Mark II with me, and I've got the 11 to 22, so I thought I'll take this at 11 so that you can actually see how wide the 11 will take it, this particular shot. Then we're going to use the Canon M50 Mark II with the kit lens on, and we're going to do a panorama and just see what a difference that makes. So I'm going to get set up now. I'll just show you the scene. So this is the scene across here. I want to try if I can and get those trees on the right there coming across. There's a little pond down the bottom there, and just coming round as far as possible, really. Okay, so I'm now all set up, ready to go. I've got the tripod here. I've leveled the tripod up best I can. Tip number one really is level your tripod. Because I'm going to take this in portrait mode, I need to also level the camera up and down to make sure that that is nice and level, rather than having a nice level tripod and then I've flipped it over into portrait and it's not level. So I've got as much level as possible. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is settings. You want to make sure that your settings are on manual, because you don't want the exposure changing as you're taking several shots in your panorama. First of all, I've put this into manual. I've set this on f14 so that I've got more of the scene in focus, and then ISO 100 and shutter speed 1/160th of a second. I'm just going to check that. Yep, that's okay. I've set the white balance on for a sunny day rather than auto, because I normally have it on auto when I'm out shooting. I don't want that to change as we pan round. Okay, so to start with, I'm going to just get my first shot. So there's a couple of trees. I mean, you don't have to include all these, by the way, it's just a good idea. Now, because the day's a bit windy, I'm going to make sure that I've got a couple of second timer on. So let's just put that on. 2 seconds should do. So I've got a 2-second timer. Everything's in manual. I've set up my first shot. Now, it doesn't matter whether you pan left to right or right to left when you're doing this. So let's have a look at this and get some shots. So I've got the first one. It's a bit underexposed actually, but that's okay. So that's my first shot. Now you need to make sure these overlap when you're doing this. So I've got the tree and I'm just going to move this round now. So I've still got some of the tree and take my next shot. There's my second shot. Then we're going to pan round a bit more. There's my third shot. I've got to remember where I am. There's a little pyramid thing there over on the left. So I'm going to come round and put that to the right. So that's 4 shots now. And come round a bit more. That's 5 shots. So I've just got the edge of the pond coming in now. So I'm going to come round. That's 6 shots. Come round a bit more. 7 shots. So yeah, it's got a little bit more underexposed as I come round, but that's okay because we can sort that out once everything's fixed. We can sort that in post. So that was taken at 35mm focal length. So we're now going to go in at 45 and see what difference that makes. So let's come back round. I'm going to start off with the same tree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think that should do me. 7. Okay, so we've taken that one at 45, so we can actually look at the difference. I'm going to walk back now, but if I see another shot, I will stop and set up again so that we can take another shot. So here we are in Lightroom Classic. This is the program I tend to use. I've got the first 7 photos that I took for my Panorama. So if you remember, we started with that tree over on the right hand side, so that's the first one, and then I moved to the left. So I'm just going to select all of these. I'm just going to hold shift down and click the last one, and that's all 7 selected. And in Lightroom Classic it's really easy to stitch these together. All you need to do is right click on one of the images down the bottom here, and then if you come up to photo merge, you can now select Panorama. Click that and immediately it stitches them together and gives you some idea of what it's going to look like in this preview here. So now you get a choice over on the right hand side of cylindrical, spherical and perspective. I tend not to use the perspective one because that sort of curves it round in my view from the left to the right, but you know, again, it's down to personal choice. I tend to use either this one, cylindrical, or the spherical. They're both very similar and you probably wouldn't actually be able to tell the difference in it, but I'm going to go with the cylindrical one here. And then you get some other choices. You can have this one here that's called boundary wrap, and if you start to move that over to the right, it starts to remove that white space on the top and bottom, but it doesn't always do a good job. It just depends on your scene. On this one it doesn't look too bad. If we just zoom in and have a little look at it, it seems to be okay. And then if I just left that at 0, you could have auto crop. If you click that one, it sort of does an auto crop where it crops that white space out. But again, this is down to personal choice really, because it may not crop it how you want it. If I just take that off, but to be honest, in this particular case it's probably just going to crop down to that line there and up to that line there and across there, which is the sort of crop that I want. Let's have a look at auto crop again. Pretty much okay. Let's just zoom in. So a lot of it depends on your scene to whether you would use that auto crop. I'm going to leave it like that. I think that one's quite good, and then click merge. Now it does its job. You'll see at the top it's got creating panorama. You just got to wait a little while for it to do that. Okay, so that's the panorama created now, which looks okay. I haven't done any editing of the photo at all, or any of the photos. I always do that once I've got my final crop. So this is obviously in RAW. I've not converted it to JPEG yet, so I'm just going to adjust some of my settings. It looks a bit dull down here, so I'm just going to give it a little bit on the contrast. I'm going to bring the highlights down a little tiny bit, the shadows, bring those up a touch, and then the whites, in this case just bring the whites up very slightly, blacks down a bit so I've got those nice shadows. I always put a little bit on the dehaze. You can see the difference that makes. You start to get the colour out on everything there. Just a little bit on the vibrance, not too much. I think that one looks okay. I sometimes use this tone curve. I'm just going to bring the highlights up and the shadows down a bit there. And then I think I'm reasonably happy with that. I think I might just bring these shadows out a bit on the right hand side. So let's click the masking tool, and then I'll use the linear gradient I think on this one. Just bring that over and just bring the shadows up a bit in that corner, maybe a little bit on that tree. Have a little brush them out a little bit. Let's just bring the shadows up a touch. That's it, not too much because you know they were in shadow. Maybe a little bit on that tree, maybe a little bit over here. So I remember as I was panning round I was getting a little bit of darkness coming out as I panned round. The clouds were moving over, so the light was changing very slightly. I think that one should do me, so I think I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to, what I do is give this a star. I'll give this 2 stars, and then I can just click my 2 stars, so I've only got that one left. Now I can go to File and Export, and let's give this custom name Panorama Campbell Park. Make sure I'm in the right place. Yes, export that, and that's job done. So actually it's a really quick job to stitch these photos together. Here's the first shot I took with the 11mm focal length, and this was a single shot, and you can see I've got the tree on the right and the pond on the left. Here's the 35mm panorama, 7 shots taken with this one in portrait orientation, and here's the 45mm panorama with the same 7 shots. Now here they are, so you can compare them all. Top left you've got the 11mm, top right 35, and bottom right 45. So you can see the difference a panorama makes to a single shot using a wide angle lens. Anyway, if you enjoyed that video, please give me the thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing and clicking that notification bell so that you don't miss future videos. And I look forward to seeing you on my next trip out.